I'd like to call to order the City of Saugatuck City Council Special Meeting for May 4th, 2026. Jamie, will you call the roll?
Anderson.
Here.
Clark.
Here.
Dean.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Muncy.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Stanton.
Here. We have a quorum. I know Councilmember Stanton asked about recusal, whether she needs to recuse herself. My understanding, and I believe Mr. Woody is online, is that that's really a decision. The question for her is, can she deliberate and vote separating her business ownership versus her role to represent the city? She has expressed to me before the meeting that she would like to share the information that she has gathered from folks, because she is very plugged into the community. But I think said that
I'm
she's
happy to abstain from voting.
so I wanted to get that out at the beginning and see with council members if I just wanted to get that out at the beginning. And Jake, does that work for you?
So is the question you're asking is, should the council consider and decide whether there's an issue of a conflict of interest? Are you asking me whether one exists?
I guess first, if you think one exists, and then how we handle that, knowing what Lauren's preference is.
So the nature of the conflict is owning a business that will be affected by the water shutoff, along with several other businesses within the city, right?
That's correct.
So generally speaking, a conflict of interest doesn't arise in the context of generalized regulations that are going to be impactful on a wide basis. And so there are some financial ramifications that can arise for council members on issues of general applicability. But with that said, the other competing objectives of the ethics policy is to avoid the appearance of impropriety and to ensure that council members are carrying out their fiduciary duties to act in the best interests of the city rather than personal interests. So given that the water shutoff is something of an issue of general applicability that isn't only impactful to Councilmember Stanton's business, I don't know that I'd necessarily be concerned about the financial issue of it alone, so long as Councilmember Stanton feels that she is able to participate, deliberate, and vote in the best interests of the city as a whole, rather than her own personal interests that might be implicated here.
Jake, what I would love to do is just have a discussion, because I've talked to a lot of business owners on Water Street, but I'm happy to abstain just so it doesn't look like I'm voting one way or the other as far as my business is concerned. Am I allowed to do that?
If it depends on whether or not you believe you have a conflict. So I don't think just the arrangement itself financially constitutes a conflict, because this is an issue of general applicability. If you feel like you can act in the best interests of the city, then you can deliberate and vote. If you do not feel like you can act impartially, then that would be grounds for recusal. If you do feel like you need to recuse yourself, that would be recusal from both discussion and from voting, because someone who does have a conflict can engage in deliberations.
Okay. Frankly, it doesn't matter to me, how this all goes down. I will accept what the group, kind of comes to a consensus about as far as what is best for our community. So, either week works for me. So I don't have, it doesn't matter one way or the other. So I feel like I can just be impartial to all of this.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Then we will proceed, just flagging on the agenda, which will ask for any changes or deletions to. We have 2 public comment periods, one at the beginning and one at the end. Everyone is welcome to make a public comment. If you do choose to do that, you have 3 minutes. We ask you provide your name and come, for those of you in the room, come to the podium so that everyone can hear you. And those online who wish to make a comment can raise their Zoom hands. Since we do have a big crowd today, if, and this is completely up to everybody in the room, or anyone who wishes to make a comment, if you essentially agree with sort of what others have said, you are welcome to just say that or to indicate by raising your hand that that's your position. But again, I don't want to quash or anyone's time to make their point. So any changes to the agenda, council? All right, seeing none. We don't have a guest speaker. That brings us to the first public comment. So we'll start in the room. Anyone who wishes to talk, come to the podium. And it's just sort of, you all, somebody stands and comes and then take turns as you see fit. Yes, come to.
My name is Chad. I'm with Skip Investigating. I'm the contracted with the city and Cal Lake to do the water work. So my question is, I've looked at like business hours and what we're doing, and I'm hoping to have the water back on 11, 12 o'clock. To try to do this at a nighttime would be a conflict of if I need parts or pieces, I can't get it. Materials got to go in and out. There is a noise ordinance, we'd be breaking that, so we'd have to, get into variance on that. There's just a lot of things that need to happen. And I think, with businesses I've talked to and see the hours that they're open, and some of them are not open on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I feel like that would be the perfect time to do this now.
Great, thanks, Chad. Appreciate you coming.
Thanks, Chad.
Yeah, you can just come and you don't need to raise your hand. No. We appreciate you making it for us, Mike.
I'm Mike Johnson, on Coral Gables. I only have one comment. I don't think we can vote on it, but why don't we do this next fall? Is there a limit when this has to be done?
This isn't a Q&A, but I'm sure that will get addressed once we start the meeting and start talking.
Can't stay too long. I want to give it one.
Okay,
Thanks,
appreciate that,
Thanks,
Mike. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Anyone else in the room?
Hi, my name is Christine Murphy. I'm at 449 Water Street and 121 Berry Street. I come to the meetings, I listen to the meetings. I've known about the valve needs to be fixed since I've been in business for 17 years. I've never been aware that it needs to be fixed. I've been aware that the project is going to happen. Obviously, it's the communication that is the issue for all of us. The no communication. I just happened to be standing outside my building when they handed me the flyer to let me know that the water is going to be cut off on Tuesday, and it would be great. It would have been great if, the director or the project manager had like a liaison with the businesses in town that could be like, okay, Tuesday is Cinco de Mayo. Of course, as bar owners, we know every holiday when people like to drink. We don't expect everyone else to, but when I do a project at my place of business and I have to turn off a fryer or I have to turn off something, I then therefore sit down, get with my kitchen manager, get with my front of the house staff, look at a calendar, look at the numbers that I have done in the past on that exact same day. And I take some data into that and I get some opinions about it. And it's not a hard thing to do that way. Everyone says, it's not gonna make everyone happy in that sense, but there can be like, oh, didn't realize it was Cinco de Mayo. Oh shit, it's tulip time, didn't even think about that. I forget about things too all the time. But if there's like people, like that would have been great to hear, we can maybe get out by 11, okay, there's hope for life. But there's no hope for life when we get something like that, and we're into April as business owners here. The money is dried up for our savings, we are ready to go, we have staff that we pay for to stand around, so Cinco de Mayo and things like that are very, very important. They can make or break a month. Like one night of business can make or break a month. That's just the bottom line here. Do we like it? No. I would love to have 4 days off. That would be great. My staff would love to have 4 days off if the weather's nice. It's not about closing. That's fine. I understand we have to close for this project, okay? It's the lack of communication. It's the lack, I see a lot of cities have liaisons with business owners, whether it be retail, whether it be bed and breakfast. I mean, I don't even, the bed and breakfast had to cancel. That's like days and days and days they had to cancel because they can't flush toilets and stuff. So to me, it's the cohesiveness, but it's always been that way here. And it's starting to get to the point where people that have lovely businesses here don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be here on some days anymore.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Christine.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks, Christy.
Someone else wish to speak?
Agree.
Okay, so if that kind of sums up the agree, others can come and speak who agree, and others can speak about anything else. Yes, you're coming to the podium.
Follow letter last night, sorry about the late hour. Sure you got it. I'm Jennifer Davenport, my husband Steve, 49, own Chesapeake Colonial Inn. I'd like to submit the letter, I have to go back to work, and ask my neighbor to read it for me. So everyone can hear it. Okay, please, Chrissy.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Jen.
I'm Chrissy Newman. I own property at 547 Butler Street, and so we're cross street neighbors. And I haven't read this, so we're all gonna get through it. Dear council members and Mayor Anderson, my name is Jennifer Davenport, my husband Steve Boyd, and I own the Judson Keith Colonial Inn at 607 Butler Street in Saugatuck. Our water and sewer service are located on the Francis Street line, and we are in the affected area. We are asking you to reschedule the water service shut off and boil water scheduled for the 3 to 8th of May. We were notified on the afternoon of Friday, May 1st, 2026. We cannot operate our bed and breakfast without water service and or potable water. If the preventative maintenance to replace the water valves goes forward as scheduled, we will be forced to close our business from May 5th through the 8th due to the water shut off and the 48-hour oil order, which anecdotally I understand might be longer than that. As of May 1st, the guest notifications that we would need to cancel are about 25 room nights. That amounts to over $10,000 in lost income. We will file a claim with our insurance carrier under the business interruption clause of our policy. Our carrier will in turn look to claw back that loss in subordination suit against the city of Saugatuck. As Saugatuck taxpayers, we do not want to see that happen and hope that can be avoided. Additionally, we are not the only lodging property that will be forced to close the 58th, not to mention the restaurants. Preventative maintenance of critical infrastructure is essential. This work needs to be done, but timing is everything. Tulip Time Festival, the first through the 10th in Holland, and is a soft opening of the summer business season in Saugatuck and our region. Visitors and our guests from around the world book months in advance to attend this event. Among those visitors, we have VIP guests arriving from France on May 5th, who booked months ago, who we would now need to cancel. Frankly, it's embarrassing. In addition, May 5th is Cinco de Mayo. Our restaurant owners coming out of off season. This is an incredibly busy day and welcome restart to earning again. We are small business owners and are more, are the most of the businesses, as are most of the businesses in Saugatuck. In January 2016, we purchased a property that was widely known as the light of the town. We invested well over $1 million, which at that time was substantial, and created our inn. We love this town. There is one industry in this town, tourism, that has not changed for well over 100 years. It's what brought most of us here. Without it, there would not be the restaurant and shops that we all enjoy. Our ask, move the preventative maintenance replacement of the water valves to a date in November after the season. The impact of the watershed of boil order in our business as well as all waterscape lodging partners and restaurants will be significant. While this should be done, it's not. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer and Steve.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else in the room? Yes, come to the mic.
Hello, I'm Hannah Van Busker, representing Bayside Inn at 618 Water Street. Like we just heard, we were notified Friday afternoon. That was 3 days to give our guests who had already booked and paid deposits and notification that if they were going to stay with us, we are offering tulip-time special that is not going to be redeemed at this point. This is our busiest week of the season or start of the season for us, and we're fortunate and able to move guests to our other property, but a lot of guests don't want to do that due to our key location. They don't want to be across the river. We are also next door to many restaurants that are going to be affected by this, and our guests, even if they stay in town, are going to have nowhere to go, out to eat, to shop. If there are Mount Pleasant events, where are they gonna spend their money? Somewhere else. Our biggest issue is the communication. We did not know that this was gonna be happening. We also had contractors show up last Tuesday and start jackhammering right next to us between our property and the barge and ship and shore, where there is a fingerling salmon project going on. And we were not notified that this was going to be happening. So we would like it to be moved. It's kind of egregious of an oversight on the planning committee to not communicate these things to the lodging properties, especially knowing this key event of Tulip Time and Cinco de Mayo. It just feels like a massive oversight, and there should have been more communication, clearer communication. And if there is a hard reason that this is like an emergency and needs to be done right now, that needs to be communicated to us as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah. Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? All right, anyone online? Jamie, I don't see anybody, do you? No, I
Yeah,
Oh.
I
Okay,
So I'm Nick Agnew, 580 Mason. I have been in front of you about my rental property
Mhm.
before where, we missed the deadline. Because again, I'm supporting the businesses here. My wife and I have a couple properties here in the area where we make recommendations, I think probably with every business here. And, I'm annoyed at this because again, the consistency and the parallels with the lack of communication that goes on here. You made the onus on us to know when the, renewal was. We've been in good standing for I don't know how many years. I feel like a broken record up here, but I just want to emphasize the communication needs to be better here. And it's not only true for businesses, but for the, tax paying supporters of the community that may not live here year round. Some of us that'll change, but just better communication overall from you all to us. As people that support the town and only want the best for it. Thank you.
thanks, Mr.
Thanks,
Riggle.
Nick. Thank you.
Great.
Anyone else in the room? Okay, last call for Zoom. Okay, that closes the first public comment period, which takes us to the business at hand. Russ, since you called along with council members Peterson and Muncy to have this meeting, will you tee this up for us and
Absolutely.
get a motion on the table?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate everybody that's here today and comments. I share your concerns about the communication with our business community and our residential community, particularly with this situation. We first learned about this as a council on Thursday evening on the 30th with an email from our city manager. And then on Friday began to get inundated with phone calls and text messages from business owners who are saying, what's going on? I'm just getting a letter. And so after some investigation and conversation with a couple of the council members, a motion was made or a email was sent on Saturday to call a special meeting under the city charter. That's why we're here today. My motion would be to change the dates of the scheduled water valve work currently planned for Tuesday, May 5th and Wednesday, May 6th, 2026 to a date and time which will be less impactful on businesses and with additional communication notifying the businesses of when that's going to occur.
Second. All right. Takes us to deliberation.
Would you mind repeating that a little bit slower, please?
Sure. Sorry, a little bit of coffee this morning.
It's okay, me too, but. So,
No worries. My motion is to change the dates of the scheduled water valve work currently planned for Tuesday, May 5th and Wednesday, May 6th, 2026 to dates and times which are less impactful to our business and residential communities and with appropriate advance notification of the impact of that work.
thank you, everyone. Second by Peterson?
Yes. All right. So we have a number of people here who can weigh in and answer questions. Chad's here. We have Peter from Fleece and Vanderbrink is here, obviously our city manager. So, we can answer questions as we begin the deliberation process. So who would like to, Lauren, you or Scott, who would like to begin?
Yeah, just hearing from different people. Obviously, this is Tulip Time Week. It's Cinco de Mayo. There was a number of people that obviously, I didn't even know that there was special offerings for Tulip Time Week as far as lodging communities. I mean, this is huge, especially for, restaurants and lodging community. This is just a tricky week to have this done. But that being said, next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, I had a mixed bag of hearing from people, whether next week, Tuesday, Wednesday is better than this week. But if you look at the calendar and if you look at the weather, it's still not great weather next week as well as far as outdoor dining and that sort of thing. So, I don't know that, and this is a question for Ryan, it's a question for Chad, if this sort of thing can be moved to November. I don't know. I guess that's my question right now.
So I guess maybe the city manager can, talk about timing and why this was timed the way it is. The other question too is for the lodging industries. My understanding of, obviously when the water shut off, the water shut off. But once the water comes back on, people can still use water to shower and to use the bathroom. It's drinking the water. Is that true?
Well, I can try to.
You want to?
Mayor, I can try to put on my hat. I should actually be doing my job at the State Environment Agency right now, but I'm here. I'm glad to be here. Typically, when the boil order water is issued, the recommendation is folks not consume the water, not prepare food with the water. Typically, most health agencies will allow indication of, home activities or a lodging activity. You can bathe, you can wash your hands with the water. But preparing food you should not do during a boil advisory. Drinking the water, brushing your teeth with the water, you should not do in a boil advisory. So typically though, unless you're opening your mouth, over the shower and drinking the shower water or, bathing a baby, you might want to give a baby a sponge bath. These are the typical things that we have recommended, in communities like Flint and others when we've had these water main breaks or boil advisories. So that's typically the guidance. I don't want to speak on behalf of the local health department. I'm not a member of the local health department, or I'm not a member of Cal Lake, but that is typically how it is handled during a boil advisory.
And then, so before Ryan talks some about timing, I just will remind council members that we have been talking about this for months. And that this was coming,
You
and
didn't even know about it when I called you. I called you and you didn't know that it was Cinco de Mayo.
Maybe we should go through the fact base on this, given Councilman Peterson's comment. In our community surveys that we've done for a number of years now, folks have made infrastructure improvements a top priority in our city. And I think that's very good reason for that. Because, in November of 2023, we had a terrible water main break, Butler and Culver. which, you know, covered this entire area from Retro Boat Rental all the way down to the Butler. We were very lucky that it didn't occur in the summer, but it did. We've had previous water main breaks, November 28, 18, Butler and Grand. So, you know, obviously we made this a top priority as a council, and then going back to February 4th of this year at in our meeting minutes, we reviewed bids for the Maple Street Utility Improvements Proposal Project, which on page 4 includes a new gate valve on Water Street to better isolate leaks. February 6th, the city engineer report of this year, Maple Street improvements. A bid opening was held January 27th, and an award is anticipated at February 9th council meeting. And that includes, once again, new water valves on Water Street. Superintendent Herbert submitted an item to our agenda on February 9th of 2026, street and utility improvements. One of the bulleted items in that is Water Street gate valves. Council unanimously approved this work with Skippers. And under the contract times, section 4.2, work will not begin before February 15th of 2026 and will be substantially completed on or before November 13th, 2026. Under 4.03 milestones, parts of work shall be substantially completed on or before the following milestones. Milestone 1, all work on Water Street, Mary Street, Coughlin Park, Wicks Park, Francis Street, and Spear Street shall be completed before May 22nd, 2026. I just need to ask my colleagues, do you all remember deliberating on this issue? Do you all remember voting on this issue?
Yes, Scott, that's not the question.
We're gonna go, well, actually, I will say, council paying attention to these states it is our job. So,
Then I'll get into the communications of this matter. February 9th, we voted unanimously to approve this work. We contracted with Skippers to do this work. On the February 12th, 2026 city manager report, this goes out to the community. Jamie, I don't know how many people get this report. Ryan, do you know what our?
Sorry, you don't have the floor this long. There are a lot of us that want to talk.
Oh, I beg to differ.
A lot of us.
I beg to differ, council member.
okay, I think what we're gonna do is go around the table so that
Yes.
people can talk. So Scott, finish up your initial comment, and then we can go back around
Okay,
again.
well,
And then Lauren, you have been raising your hand, so we'll kick it back to you.
so the city manager report, this goes to about 800 people. That's a distribution of 800. So on the 9th, we unanimously approved this work. On February 12th, the city manager report, Maple Street and other street utility improvements. Bulleted is installation of additional gate valves on Water Street to better isolate future water leaks. Construction is anticipated to run from spring through late fall 2026 in the downtown area to be completed before Memorial Day to minimize impacts during peak season. Again, city manager report going to 800 people, March 27th of 2026. Third bullet, Water Street gate valve work is planned for this spring. This will involve some intersection closures and water service to be interrupted, checking to see if the work can be done at night to lessen impacts. We've heard from Skippers on that. So it continues. April 30th, city manager report. Water valve work is planned for May 5th and 6th. That's the April 30th report. Water shutdowns needed for work be fairly extensive at times.
Okay, let's go to Lauren, and then we'll come back.
Wonder if it would be less impactful if we moved the work to next Tuesday, Wednesday. Looking at the weather forecast, it's not great next Tuesday, Wednesday. So as far as outdoor dining and that sort of thing, it won't be great for outdoor dining. As far as the lodging community is Tuesday, Wednesday, trying to get people back on the books for lodging this week. Is that even possible because you've canceled them all? Or is next Tuesday, Wednesday, is that going to work? I guess that's what I'm wondering. And then my second question that just needs to be answered is whether this can be done in November. I know our contract says we need to have it done before Memorial Day. I'm just asking if this particular piece of work could be done in November. I'm just asking to be clarified.
Right?
I don't know, we're not prepared to answer that today. We have an
Okay.
existing contract. We would have to go and talk with and I'm not gonna put them on the spot in a public meeting to look at, schedules and, obviously they have some deadlines they need to meet with Maple Street. We could have delays or issues with that. Obviously there's a new, food and wine festival coming that there may be impacts in November with now. So that's kind of
Right.
what we'd have to weigh out. We certainly, if the desire of the council will, go back and talk about the contract and whether or not, there's the ability to make changes that both parties would be agreeable to, and we would bring that back if that's your direction.
Chris? Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank Christine Murphy, who called me as we were driving back from Florida to tell me about this. And I'm sure, as we've all heard from Councilmember Dean, we talked about it here. Was the date May 5th ever there? We're a tourist community. Any calendar should be looked at before this. We have Cinco de Mayo and then Tulip Time. Why can't we do this after Mother's Day, between Memorial Day?
Okay. Gregory.
Oh, I
You
didn't have my
comment?
hand raised, but
No,
I
you
will,
just-
but I did say,
I wanted-
however, however, it's such a great small town. I think I've spoken to at least half of the people sitting in here, and I know Lauren has as well, so I don't really have to say that much. Other than I think it's quite clear that we can do better when it comes to communicating with our business owners. And I agree with Lauren. That was the first thing in my head. Next week, after Tulip Festival. I understand the restaurants, but I really feel for our heads in our beds because of all of the complications and having to cancel $10,000. Did you hear that?
East Judson.
Davenport.
Doesn't he?
And I mean, that's just one of them. And so I think that we need to do better communicating to our business owners. And I agree with Lauren. When I reached out to you, I thought that Mayor, when I did reach out to you, in my head, I was thinking that perhaps next week would be a better time to do it. Tulip Time, I remember having a business here in town and is that hit that Christine Murphy was talking about that can make or break you. I know that happened to us at Del Sol. I mean, it's such a quiet winter that this week really puts that shot in me where, I could have had that extra cash to buy more inventory to get ready for Memorial Day. And so as a retailer, I understand the impact of this week. Was quite aware, I'll also say I was quite aware the valve work had to be done. But again, the timing. Business owners deserve more than 3 or 4 days notice. And again, I think we can do better together.
Russ?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Great comments. I want to appreciate Councilmember Dean's recitation of all of the actions this council has taken. I voted yes on all of those because I do support the infrastructure improvements that are needed to be made. What has disappointed me most is the tone deafness that I think our business owners have been hearing from our city. I would have expected in a situation like this that our city leadership would have said, look, we made a mistake. We need to fix this. I don't know what that solution looks like, whether it's November, whether it's next week. That's up for the experts, the Fleece and Vanderbrinks, Skippers, DPW, the city manager to assess when that's going to occur. What is disappointing to me is the communication, the lack of communication. We can do better. Just to simply say, acknowledge that we can do better will go a long way to helping our business community feel a bit more trustworthy of the city. This is not the first time this has happened, unfortunately. And the timing. In the conversations that I've had and the notices I've received, there was consultation with Cal Lake, DPW, Fleece and Vanderbrink, Skippers Excavating. No mention was made in any of the communications I received as a council member that the business community was consulted with on the dates.
Question on communication.
And
Go
just a
ahead,
moment.
please.
That's the reason I made the request to have a special meeting along with Councilmember Peterson and Councilmember Muncy on Saturday because this needed to be addressed. We don't need to be here today. This is avoidable, completely avoidable. We could do better and we need to have a conversation as a council and as the city leadership going forward on how we get better at this. This cannot happen again.
I'd like to explore that issue, because Christine Murphy's comments do have merit about a liaison, I think. And I was taken by Councilmember Muncy's comment, as former head of SEDABA. Did SEDABA used to have a liaison function that would interface with the council?
Actually, back then, we had a very strong relationship with the current employees here at City Hall. And so that, yes, when things did happen, we were notified by, at the time, Kirk, our city manager, and then we would email our business owners. So it was a liaison, but it was a joint function. So if something came up, Kirk would email me or one of the board members, and then we would reach out to the business owners. So yes, there was, but it was more of a collaborative effort.
Okay, so lacking Sadaba now to
I don't
provide.
know if it's lacking Sadaba, it's just lacking the
Well,
communication.
the lack of a.
I know that there's a communication with the
Okay.
CVB now. CVB has assumed a lot of those responsibilities, such as music in the park, events, and communications with the city, where Sadaba used to, when Sadaba used to.
So is CVB providing that liaison role?
I don't know about that. I do know that they, at times, they do reach out to business owners when they are notified of things, but when they're notified of things in a timely manner.
Okay.
Lauren?
If the city is considering whether moving this to next week, Tuesday, Wednesday versus November, I do want it to be really clear. If we have an emergency, that would really suck in July.
Mhm.
So we're weighing that, like, do it next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, or if we put it off after Wine and Food Festival in November, we're taking that risk because we could have a catastrophic thing happen in the middle of July and all of us would be impacted at a far worse time. So I guess, I just want everybody to think about that. If we can do it next week, again, the 10-day forecast does not look great. So Tuesday, Wednesday next week seems a better option than waiting till November for an emergency to happen. And that's just my opinion.
Madam Mayor?
Chris?
Absolutely, I think it should be moved. I think that's why we're here, is to get this moved. The question I have is, does it have to be a Tuesday, Wednesday? Next week, if it's Monday and Tuesday, then the boiling would be Wednesday, Thursday, which would open up the weekend for the tulip time. Is there a reason it has to be Tuesday? Can we do it Monday, Tuesday, and then have Wednesday, Thursday to boil the stuff and then have the weekend free?
I think a lot of people would be, obviously with Mother's Day, everybody's going to be extremely busy in our area for Mother's Day. That next day, probably a lot of people would love to take a break Monday after Mother's Day. So if that's a possibility, again, it's a contractor and I don't know, that's really going to have to be with the contractor. So.
Jill, you haven't said anything. You have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, these things are never easy. I think everyone on this council knows that this is the start of a long, complex infrastructure endeavor, right? That's going to have probably similar disruptions, and we're going to be coming back here and having a lot of discussions. And it's a necessary evil, dealing with infrastructure that we've probably been, we let go for too long. So I'm very sympathetic to what we're hearing out here, and nobody wants disruptions, especially to our businesses, and especially as the season's starting to kick off. But there's no easy answer here, right? I look at, there's two fundamental things. Are we suggesting that we move this? And two is communications, and I'll address communications. I happen to agree. I think, we as a council, should sit down and talk about this a little bit with our staff, right? I think some minimum SLAs are probably appropriate, right? One, to give notice to all of our stakeholders, and two, because we don't know everything, right? I mean, it's easy to all of a sudden say, wait a minute, Cinco de Mayo, didn't even think of that. I didn't, I knew this was coming, right, on me, right? So I think we can do a little bit better. I think talking about that, and, with the exception of emergency services that obviously need to be dealt with, right? Let's come up with a notice period, right, that's acceptable to everybody and hopefully avoids similar situations. That said, right, I'm nervous about kicking the can on anything, and we have got a lot of projects that are backstopped against work being done, I'm sure, like this one. And, as far as moving this, I don't even know if it's possible. I trust our city manager to ultimately, weigh in on that, which is his job. And I respect he's got to make some really hard decisions. I'm fine if he says it's okay and it's less impactful to move it, but, you know, I'm just afraid if we move it too far, to your point, Lauren, you know, we've got some huge risks out there, right? And I don't want to do that. If it's moving it a few days and it doesn't impact anybody and we can logistically make that happen, again, I turn to our city manager and trust him to make the decision that minimizes the impact. But, you know, my gut says the course, let's take some time and improve communications. We know that there's a lot more of this coming down the road, and, you know, I want our stakeholders to be prepared, right? This is just, it's the unfortunate reality of what we've got to deal with. That's kind of where my head's at.
So I can recap the communications because I did. I heard from almost everyone on council on Friday. And had numerous conversations with Ryan, who had numerous conversations with skippers, with police, with DPW, to talk about this. And the consensus, so we do have the hard contractual deadline. And I mean, anybody who's had any work done, whether the city or at home, things go wrong. So if you need something by the 22nd, you have to assume that you've got to really beat that deadline because you never know what's going to happen. So going, and we, okay, so going through that, their recommendation was to stay with the dates. Part of the issue too, I mean, speaking of communications, so if we change it, then we need to make sure we get to everybody. So people who've been preparing for it this week, who've, made provisions, then they need to undo those if they can. And then people need to redo the provisions for next week. So I think on, looking at everything, the recommendation was to stay the course. I back that decision. One thing I just want to ground everybody in is there are only two people in this room who know what it's like to run a city, and it's Ryan and Jamie. We don't have a lot of staff to do that work. We have 865 residents, 141 businesses, 1.4 square miles. We have 500 acres of parks. I could go through the numbers in our budget. You can see then our water utilities, sewer utilities, storm sewer utilities. It's a complicated job. Just right now, we're getting ready for Maple Street to kick off in a couple of weeks. We've got the water main work we need to do here. We've got an election tomorrow. Oval Beach is, getting ready to open. I mean, getting the sand off the parking lot, getting a new concession vendor up and running and ready to go. Getting the staff ready. Chris, I'm not done.
I know, I'm just waiting for you to get done.
Okay. Patching potholes, striping sidewalks. I agree that if council decides it's a good use of taxpayer dollars to invest in a communications position, a part-time, I'm all for that. We don't have staff right now we've heard that from short-term rental license holders. Oh, we need to, send out notices. We aren't staffed to run that level of service, nor really are most municipalities our size. Happy to put that in the budget for next year and to make that higher. But I feel like my job as a city council person is to listen to, we set the priorities and, we've got our priorities. We approve the resources, and then we turn it over to staff to run the city. And I back the staff. I appreciate the tough position they're in. But That's where I come down. Chris, you were next.
I call the question.
All right.
I don't know if that has to be voted on or not.
I want to be sure everyone who has something to say on council has said something. I see Gregory's got his hand raised.
Just one more point. Back when Sadava worked with the city to have communication to our businesses, that was before we reinstated our licensing that we have now, where businesses are sending their emails, contact information to our staff. I think we have a great opportunity to improve our communication here, because back then, and we had just about as many businesses as we do now. We have a few more, but back then we had just one city clerk. We didn't have a deputy clerk, which we do now, and we didn't have an assistant with the DPW. So I think we have a great opportunity of better communication without having to hire an additional person to send out emails in timely manners to our business owners. Again, we have a deputy clerk now that we didn't have before. We also have an assistant or deputy person there at the DPW. So we do have increased staff. So I think we have an opportunity for better communication. I don't know if whether we need to spend more taxpayer money.
I just agree with actually what you said, Councilman, and what the mayor said is I'm prepared to support hiring a communication staffer or working with one of our business associations to designate a liaison. I think it's a very good idea. I think it's an excellent idea.
That's a good idea.
I do think, though, that staff, given the tools they had, made a very logical and rational decision. Saugatuck Douglas Visitors Bureau, they have a very nice area of business hours. And if you look at it, it's pretty clear that this time in the shoulder season, which is actually getting broader, still, more than a dozen businesses in the affected area, restaurant businesses in particular, are closed. If staff looked at this or looked online, they would have seen Wicks Park was closed on Tuesday. They would have seen the Cottage was closed on Tuesday and Wednesday. They would have seen, I'm sorry, I have the floor.
Hey.
Are you going to disrupt a meeting, sir? That is an actual violation of city.
Let's.
Mitten closed Monday, Wednesday. CVB says Mitten's closed Monday, Thursday. Ida Reds closed Monday, Wednesday. Retro Boats, CVB says they're temporarily closed. I know that's not true. Corner Bar closed Monday through Thursday. Saugatuck closed for the season. And then the interesting thing is that, there is going to be unintended consequences any way we do this. Marker 14 had a soft opening last week. The owner of Marker 14 told guests that they were waiting on opening until the water valve work was done. So, we are going to disadvantage somebody no matter what action we take. I don't think anybody takes any pleasure in this. But I think we know that we have a ticking time bomb. We have a 100-year-old water main running down Butler Street. And we've been very lucky with these water main breaks that it hasn't happened during the prime summer season. So I think it's a bit of a ticking time bomb, and I'd be hesitant to wait on this important work.
Lauren?
I appreciate all the comments on having better communication, and that's something we can all work on as a city council. But everybody in this room wants to know if we are capable of moving this next week, and they just want an answer to that and whether our contractor is able to do that. That's the only question we need to know.
The motion is, if that's the question at hand, we need to reword the motion. Russ?
Madam Mayor, could I ask the clerk to please read the motion again?
Gardner motion to change the date of the scheduled water valve work scheduled on May 5th and 6th to a date in the future less impactful to businesses and residents, communities with appropriate communication with the impacts of that work.
Thank you. And the reason I asked that motion to be reread is I agree with Councilmember Stanton is that is simply the question. I rely and will rely on the city manager and the city staff to make that work out. We're here today to simply say, we need to provide relief to our businesses and residents for this week for our poor communication. This is the cost of making a poor decision.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the motion.
All right. Let's call the vote, Jamie. It's a roll call vote.
Anderson,
No.
Clark,
No.
Dean,
No.
Gardner.
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
Motion carries. That brings us to our second public comment period. Anyone, again, can speak as was true in the first public comment period.
I'm Dean, 449 Water Street, 141 Mary Street. I would appreciate getting singled out as two restaurants you spoke about not being open on Google. Of course, Google, I don't know if everyone else has that, if Google's ever right. Anyways, didn't have time to update it because I was dealing with the water situation, dealing with this for the weekend. I just want communication, and I don't think it's that hard. In the scheme of life, everyone was, even Daniel Franco called me from Saugatuck Township to discuss about it and ask what's going on. But instead, we get dates and dates and dates by Scott Dean about what happened. And the majority of us do not live in here in Saugatuck. So we might not sign up for all of the things. And we too also have 52 other jobs to do today and a million other things to get done. But it is our job to get them done, just like it's the job of the city council to get it done. So to say that we're understaffed here, I'm sick of hearing that we're understaffed here. Because then tell us what needs to happen, instead of just saying we're understaffed. I've never heard we're understaffed X, Y, and Z. Okay, well then I'm willing to come in for a couple hours and talk or do whatever needs to happen. There's been nothing to said of that in that way. So it's like you want us to do something, but you're not willing to talk to us about what needs to be done. Instead, it's constantly, I'm the girl on the corner that is always bitching about something because no one else is bitching about it. You know, I get disrespected at every one of these meetings constantly. And I just I didn't even want to be a part of this water conversation, to be completely honest. But if I don't step up, then other people are gonna be like, well, fuck it too. You know, and this is a serious thing of not talking to the business owners. This is very serious. This is tens and tens of thousands of dollars. This isn't just that all of us are doing this as a fucking hobby. That we're like, woo, let's open a bar. We're all here because we love this community. We love to work. We love to serve the food. We love to sleep the people. And no one is taking us seriously ever. It's like we're just a joke of what we do in this town. And it's starting to get really annoying. Real annoying. Infrastructure, all I've talked about are the sidewalks, and I know it has to start underground, and I know all that. My dad's a builder. I hear about how he has to hook houses up the correct way. Things just need to be done, and if they're not done, there's not gonna be businesses here, because we're all getting tired. Okay? We're all getting tired of doing all of our jobs, and then more jobs and more jobs. So if something doesn't change for someone on the city council that they give me a high five, great job, Christine, it's gonna get really bad. You know, there's no one ever saying the businesses did great or this did great. It's, oh, the council's doing good. Oh, it's never us that feeds the people, sleeps the people, and entertains the people. And that is all we have are the people. So something needs to change. I'm willing to volunteer. I have friends that will.
Christine, your time's up. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Christine.
Anyone else in the room wish to speak?
Good morning, Renee Grace. Here full time at Saugatuck and own 2 retail companies. I would just like to challenge the board on saying we can do better. I think you must do better. Because I've come to several meetings and this is such a beautiful community. There's so many people that just want to be a part of it. And business owners that give their blood, sweat, and tears. And as a small business owner for years, little things like this really make the difference. As we don't know what it's like to run a city, and I completely agree with that, and I respect that. Several people here do not know what it's like to own a restaurant. And for someone that's owned a restaurant for many, many years, it is extremely challenging. Not only that, you have people that are working that are scheduled and rely on that money. And then what happens there? So I don't want to hear we can do better. I'm telling you, I feel confident in speaking for everyone here. You must do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
They're so vague on the principles of Margaret 14. I just want to know in the room that that statement was never a thing as far as opening. I don't know who you spoke with, but it didn't come from me.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Anyone else in the room?
I'm Laura Zagara-Gasitis, 561 Main Street. We are business owners. We are not on Water Street, but I wanted to come here today. First, I want to just respond to the comment that was just made, because the comment was made to me personally by Jenny Van, that they had taken into account the water situation. So I wanted to make that clear that that was shared with me personally by the business owner. My focus though wants to be on making sure that you all are upholding your fiduciary duty and you have placed that confidence in our city manager, and those decisions should not be being made at this level. I was part of the school board. We don't make decisions about scheduling, about implementing contracts. We impart that to, in my case, the superintendent, in this case, the city manager. So the reason I'm here today is I was very shocked to see that there was a special meeting called around scheduling. And I just want to remind you all about your fiduciary duties. And then my professional life, I do communication. And I always think that communication is a good thing. Communication is also a two-way street. So it's not a unilateral communication from the board and the city. It needs to be a joint communication effort. And so I've heard an idea today about getting a liaison put in place. I think that's a wonderful idea because the city doesn't know what the businesses are doing.
Mhm.
They need to be informed by the businesses. And the businesses have an obligation to keep up with what's going on in city council. I knew that there was going to be water work done, and I'm just a citizen. I'm not an impacted business. So I want to thank you for the hard work you do. I know it's hard work being on a board. So thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Ryan Brown, the GM of Bart. I just had a quick question. I know it's probably not something to be answered right now, but since there is no date place to do the work, it's now been postponed. We have an active construction site in front of the both businesses, in front of the barge and shore, and it looks like it's closed. We've had dozens and dozens of people walk up this area, it looks like revitalization. I just want to make sure if this job is pushed really far, if it's not next week, if they can't do it next week, that disaster area out front, I know that's exaggerated, it's a construction site, but it's got orange fencing, bulldozers, concrete everywhere. It looks like we're closed. I want to make sure that doesn't sit there until November, because then that's going to impact us way more than Cinco de Mayo will long term for us. So I just want to make sure it's brought, there is some thought into that.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Anyone else in the room?
I live in the state of Illinois, population, majority there, 80,000 people, 9 wards, 9 council people representing each ward in Addison. We had a water main issue. I live right by Northwestern University. It affected businesses, homes. They started communicating 2 to 3 months prior, and they did it hard mail. They did it via email, they did it via text. And as an Evanston resident, they encourage you to sign up. And again, I don't want to make parallels. It's a much smaller town, and again, totally different issues, but in my mind, given the populace here, and even including Douglas, how hard would it be to get residents, to get business owners, to get homeowners on just some, communication chain? Regardless, and you have 3 different methods of doing it out. It's gonna cost you a postage stamp. Evanston is underwater, budget. Pays no property taxes, I get hammered here, non-homestead, I'm getting hammered there because I make it up for the fact that Northwestern is tax free. So I say that in that, you have people here, again, vested, and are just asking at the end of the day to be respected as business owners, as homeowners, and that can be a part of the process. And so I just think, we have, I think, one staff person in Evanston that helps the city manager with the communication. I'm not sure how much they're paid, but I do know that we're short on staffing in Evanston. And again, we're talking 80,000 people. So I think this is something that could be done and done without, headache for you all. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Anyone else in the room? Thanks, Chad.
So once again, Chad and Skipper's estimating, the mention of doing the work in November. Possibility, the problem with that might be the getting the asphalt back. If it gets too cold, and that could get into, which, if you take care of in the spring, maybe, we have a date of the 22nd, we have this completed. Which these 2 spots would have to be pulled off from that contract. Which is possible, there's. As far as like what Brian is saying, that, what we're working on right now, that work will be completed hopefully in the next week or so. No matter what, if this happens, doesn't happen. But, moving it to next week. Possible, you're gonna push this a little tighter on timeline to get this thing done by the 22nd. So there's all options are there. So, if we do move it to November, there's gonna be a little bit of mobilization cost and, some extra costs on that. The possibility of it not getting paved, which would be just gravel patches, possibly for the winter, if we can't get it paved. Well, that's all I got.
Thank you, Chad.
Thanks, Chad.
Appreciate you being here.
Anyone else? Anyone online wish to speak? Yes. I can't read, Tim. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. Tim Straker on Culver Street. Just one note, I may not always agree with all 7 of you on every issue, but I believe each of you have positive intent. I don't think anyone tried to screw this up. I appreciate the comment you made, Russ, about if we made an error, we made an error and we need to own that. If it's a comms issue, which it seems like it was. So all of you are, I know, trying to do your best. The city manager and team are trying to do their best. So I just wanted to acknowledge that because there's just some really bad behavior on social media, inappropriate comments, and I don't think it takes into account, that people are trying to do the right thing. So thanks for the time today.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
Anyone else either online or in the room? All right, that closes public comment, takes us to council comments. Chris, why don't you begin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank all the people that are here and all the people that were on social media. This wasn't just a scheduling issue. This was a lot bigger than that. And I think that's obvious by the number of people that have shown up here. We have to do better. Absolutely, we have to do it better. I love Sadaba. That was so easy to work with. But one of the things we always have to make sure is we get the communication out there. I think that's been brought up numerous times. I think this is a good starting point to move forward. Thank you for the city council members that voted for this. And thank you for coming.
Russ.
Yeah, thank you. I echo Councilmember Peterson's comments. Appreciate everybody that reached out to me this weekend and made this an issue for us to address this Monday. I'm pleased by the council vote on this as well, and I rely on the city manager and the city staff, and I appreciate Mr. Skipper being here today. Thank you. Tells me a lot about your company, sir, being here today. Thank you. And I will say that, you know, we just need to own up to it. We made a mistake. We didn't do this right. We will do better. Hiring a person to do communication, I will not support that. We can certainly hire a professional consultant that could be a PR that could help us on communications and get better at that and give us advice on how to do that. For a town of 800 people, we don't need another employee to do the communications. We just need to be smarter about it.
Joe?
Yeah, yeah, thanks everyone for coming out. I am looking forward to getting on our agenda sometime to talk about what's reasonable SLAs to, you know, for communicating such a, you know, especially with all the upcoming work that we have. And I don't want to get into what resources it's going to take. Let's first figure out what's reasonable and then we can back into what it's going to take to get it done. Can't say that I'm surprised that, you know, we're having a meeting like this, given the nature of the work that needs to be done. I am a little challenged thinking this through. We've essentially said we're moving an important project that everybody at this table knows needs to be done without understanding the implications of what moving it, it's going to take to move it. And that concerns me. I think it was a great point made that, you know, the scheduling, there's a lot of moving pieces here. We have to put our faith in our city manager to do the right thing. 100% on board with making sure we communicate it. I'm not sure that if we had gotten out a week in front of this, whether it would have changed the fact that we'd still be here having a special meeting to discuss because the date's not opportune. We're going to see this again, right? So I think we need to be very careful about overriding the decisions that our staff comes up with that are in the best interest of our community. And that's my my lecture for the day.
Thanks, Joe.
Scott?
This is the beauty of democracy. You know, people can take ownership of decisions in this community by showing up and by talking to their representatives that they elect for council. And then we vote accordingly. So I respect the outcome of this decision. I do remain concerned, though, that there could be unintended consequences. I certainly hope I'm wrong in that regard. But I completely respect everyone's comments here and the outcome here. But I will also take advantage of the fact that we have a good crowd here on an unusual day. Later tonight, I'm meeting with my colleagues at the American Legion Post 137. We'll be discussing the Memorial Day Parade, and we desperately need volunteers to help us block intersections so we can have a safe parade for all. You know, we know this is it's important for our country, and it's also important for this community as a tourist event, just like, you know, any number of these events are. So I would just urge the folks that are here, please get the word out that we really could use some volunteers to help us block streets for the Memorial Day Parade.
Gregory?
Yes, thank you for everybody coming out. Thank you for all of your communications, even on Facebook. There's always a couple of bad actors that just don't know how to use their communication, but I don't see any of them here today. But I really appreciate the support. I like how this council works together. And I think that all of us, you know, work well together, even when we don't agree with everything. But there's a lot to be learned here. And I respect that. I've respected decisions here that haven't always gone my way and worked friendly with everybody continually. And I appreciate that the voice of the people, which I am here as, and I have been elected several terms to be here for. I appreciate your voice, and I appreciate all of you being a part of the process. I didn't want to be here either. I don't think any of us wanted to be here. But I think the takeaway here is that what we can learn is that better communication. And I think that we all agree about that, even folks that, you know, voted no or yes here. I think everybody here at the table has admitted to all of you that we must do better. And thank you for being here.
I echo what everybody said. Thank you all for coming and thank you all for communicating your concerns, because this is what we represent you guys. I mean, we need to be able to be there for all of you. Butler Street is going to be a challenge down the road, so just keep that in mind. Let's all communicate because that's going to be the hardest one when we have to tackle Butler Street and other aspects of our city. So, you know, we're doing our best. And I think we can make adjustments when we need to. Thank you so much for being here, Chad, because really, we're depending on you to get this work done. So thank you for listening.
Well, I want to end with kind of reprising some of what Laura Zangara said. For those of you who don't know, she was the chair or the president of the school board. There are policy-making bodies, and that's city council and it's the school board. And then their administrative roles, and that's our city manager and city staff. And we have essentially just overruled our staff, which is really not our job. And it sets a really bad precedent for this city. Essentially tell staff that we want them to do their best work and make the best decisions, but then we're going to overrule them. And that's not good government. But, like Gregory, I think this council, we work as well together. I wish we could keep it out of the political and sort of this social media echo chamber, but that's where we are in the world right now. But mostly I am distressed and saddened that we have set a precedent for council telling staff how to do their jobs. And that's all I have. So can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.